So we are here today, and it's been some time that I didn't do a podcast because of so many things, but now we are here with George. And George became a friend, and George is in Australia, and George is doing wonderful work in so many areas, writing, coaching. He's got an EP7 thing that is a whole program for transformation and deepen yourself. So there's a lot to be talked about. And we just decided to have this conversation to just put out there some beautiful things that we are working on. So welcome, George.
Thank you, Anna. Such a pleasure to be connecting with you.
Yes.
Because I know that the type of conversations you like to have. So I'm excited.
Great. Me too. Yeah. So you are writing lately, and something that is fascinating me, and I'm sharing a lot. You're writing these essays about very deep things that talks to you deep in your heart, and a lot of people as well. So I wanted to maybe go through them, some of them that I share or some that I didn't, so we can talk about these topics that are really pressing in this time and age where people are being lockdowns and frustrated, and there's a lot of fear in the air and insecurity. So kind of a way to find a balance. So the first one I would like to address is the one that you wrote. It's called Me First. And at first I thought, okay, it's going to be some a hard topic, because I thought George is going to just say, not you first, but actually it is me first, which we always hoping to be first, even if it's unconscious. But tell me how you went about this essay, where it's so precious to actually consider that most important is you, but how?
Yeah. Well, Anna, the title is usually not initially what happens. It's only when I'm writing do I realize, I now feel this is the title for this. And so when Me First came out, I had a little smile on my face, because I thought, I get the double meaning here. I felt what you said. I felt people go, oh gosh, is George pretty much justified for being selfish and stamping his foot into the ground kind of thing, and maybe he's going to wrap it with some wisdom around, you got to fill your own cup kind of thing, because that's the traditional,
Sure.
But I knew that I don't discipline myself to write daily or weekly 3 times or anything. I don't do that. What happens is I get overwhelmed with some strong feeling coming off, dots joining, that is often about freedom. It's often about freeing the mind. And
liberty, the feeling, that I see under it is like real liberty, because we were even looking about the word liberty that has been hijacked to some esoteric thing. It's like the real liberty is more powerful than freedom, in a sense. That is expression, and it's more than that. So you say when you get overwhelmed, then it has to come forward.
It just comes out. And so what happens is I just quickly go to the blank document, and it happens. And it happens fast,
I imagine.
And then there's editing, because I don't care about grammar when I'm initially doing it. I don't care, because if I do care, it will slow me down, it will ruin it. Sure. So I just purge it out, and I stay in the feeling. And then right at the end, I get the chisel out, the grammar chisel.
Yes.
And then I chisel.
Fine. Yeah. Wonderful.
But what I notice is that if you were to look at the theme of everything that I write, it's like I feel being human is such a exquisite privilege. And we are so blessed to exist and then have this playground that we're losing the most preciousness of what we have and we're being distracted in a hologram of ideas that are designed to disconnect and sever us from everything that matters.
Absolutely.
And only showcase the one thing apparently that matters, which is survival.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
The
if you look,
lowest feeling.
yeah, don't look with one eye, look with a quarter of one eye, and that's survival. What about the rest of our vision for our meaning, for our purpose? And so when I see people in pain, people stuck, people just following what leaders are deciding is reality, and I see how much that reality is manufactured, it just stirs me big time. And so then what do? I see how I can somehow show that that's not nature, that's not the universe. The physics, the systems of the fabric of what makes us exist is nothing of what these leaders are professing. And so therefore I've, you know, I'll write different angles, different topics, trying to come at this. And, you know, one of the main themes is we've lost our humility and our curiosity.
Yes.
These are big. We can't understand, or we can't be informed, and we can't change ourselves and adapt to have breakthroughs if we lose our humility and stop being curious to why there's pain, why we have to always be trapped, and why we always have to follow people who keep changing the rules on why we have to keep following them and ignoring our own intuition. I mean, even intuition.
Yes.
I mean, even to this moment in our society, the institutions want to pretend that intuition isn't tangible and powerful and real.
Yes,
I
and
mean,
I'll
gosh.
call them crazy, you know, the people that are intuitive, because that's somehow how I've been thinking about that lately, that somehow the psychiatry industry, I could call, has made all these tags, all these names for certain things. So it's very handy that they can say, we can medicate these people that now they have intuition. So people are even fearful to have intuition because they're ridiculed also. Say, no, I feel like that. You can't feel like that because you don't know, you know, you're speculating, and it's like, it's in your head and you're paranoia, you know, and it's like, oh no, of course, there might be some imbalance in certain characters, but most people, if they can just go with how they really feel, if they're connected, you know, in the heart level, and they're human, and they're humble, and they're experiencing being human, really, then they do not have a problem with that. And they, you know, most of the time they don't shut down, but I think we are shut down very early on to say, oh no, you know, you're a bit crazy. You think, like, you feel that this person is aggressive. It's like, well, but they didn't aggress you, but you already feel before, you know, like a cat, in a sense. The cat is not going to wait until they're like jumped on. So I think it's important to address that, where people have disconnected for a reason as well. They're being induced. It's like an induced disconnect that has been programmed into people's minds. And that's why, you know, I call this podcast, as you know, Reclaim Your Mind. It's like, before you can actually utilize your mind properly and your brain, like you also explain in your teachings, is that you have to first have it. If it's somebody else is controlling it, or by propaganda or media or your parents or whatever, you still can't control it because you don't have it yet. So when
Look, go on. Okay. Well, when you talk to someone and they're looking at you and they're deciding how they should feel based on what you're saying, and you're trying to explain to them that our brains work in a certain way, and the brain is so powerful yet so fallible, easily gullible, doesn't have a moral compass. It can be taken down treacherous paths. It can be made to believe things that are the opposite to truth
Not real.
easily. And that's not hard to believe, because you just look at your mistakes in life and you're shocked when you realize life was this way, not that way. And the thing is, though, what's happening is that people will just operate from what their brain is wired, and that it's like they are held hostage in a set of assumptions that have been conditioned into them, and they have to live that world as if it's absolute, and they're not allowed to question the way they're seeing the world, because it's already been told to them, this is what it is, and we'll tell you if it's different, but you must live it the way we tell you it is. This is a demigod peasant relationship.
Absolutely. Very well put.
Yeah, and when you look at the two and you go into how they're both designed, they are identically designed, except one has an ambition to control the other, and one has been conditioned to feel they have no choice.
Right.
That's it. It's you have the ideas that you are better, superior, and you get to dictate the meaning of life, and I get to be a subservient person to that, with no sense of free will to dare to think that I can actually decide what's meaningful for me. And you know, when I finished my education, even going to uni, you know, before going to uni, I had not known I was a drone. I had no idea that the way I was seeing my life had already created my fate, and that everything that would happen to me was based on the way I was seeing the world, and I was so predictable in how I'd react to everything. So I was caught in that one dance based on my parents' upbringing, my culture, everything. When I went to uni was interesting because it said to me, oh, by the way, ideology exists. Look at the way societies can be different. Oh, look, anthropology, look at the way cultures can be different. Psychology, look at how fallible your brain is with your perception. Now, although these were introductory insights, they did blow my mind a little bit. And I went, oh, wow, I could be adamant that this is something, and then I realized it isn't, you know? And so that helped still. My subconscious was wired not to believe that my own ideas were legitimate. And I had to always quote everybody else. Everybody else in books were the experts, and my job was just to follow them and show that I am following them, to show that I'm being smart about life, right?
That it was the confirmation of your intellect. That's academia, really. It's like, if you can quote intelligent, suppose famous man or woman, then there you are. You are worthy of attention.
the last essay that I wrote to finish my entire degree tormented me. Why? It was studying philosophy, different philosophies around filmmaking and the impact of filmmaking, right?
Right.
Do you know what it's like for a 21-year-old to be reading heavy philosophy? I read it and I go, what did I just read? I have to read it again. What did I just read? I have to read it again. But what I noticed was it was starting to sink in, and I was starting to go, oh, wow, what an interesting way to see the world. And so then I'd hop off to the next way to see the world, and oh my gosh, look at how you can get caught in different meaning and live it out. And then I looked at film and I saw it in film. And then I started to join dots myself. And then when I wrote the essay, I felt like I was being myself, deciding for myself outside of these dogmatic ways of creating meaning. And you know, I was scared. I was scared because I thought, what have I done? I've gone out on a limb here. Like, so I honestly thought, oh my gosh, if I get a fail, it's my fault. I took too many risks.
Right.
So when I got a high distinction,
cool.
I was more relieved than I was
Happy.
reassured that I was good at thinking for myself. And so here I am being given a degree, but I'm still not confident in myself. So you know what that tells us? What chance have most of us got when even when I'm being given guidance to shake out of my drone-like existence, I'm scared, I'm struggling. It's a long process. And then it would take another decade and $150,000 of my money of me pursuing understanding my brain, how it works, the body, how it works, physics, nature, quantum physics, everything. Because it's kind of like the truth is the truth. And everything you learn should fit together somehow. The universe has to be elegant. It's not a patch-up job.
No,
you know?
It doesn't just randomly happen.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, we've got gravity, but what do we do with gravity from here? Or maybe we can create a force to keep things in a no, that's not how it's designed. It's more elegant, it's more integrated. And so I realized we're not raised in a society that prioritizes looking for integration, looking for elegance in systems, and then looking at them around us, right? So, but also then going, well, what about me? What about my inner systems? You know, what makes me whole? What makes me strong? What makes me have integrity in my constitution at every level, from mental, emotional, physical, spiritual? Where's that conversation? This should be in our institutions.
Absolutely.
But it isn't.
Yeah.
These institutions are bereft of the depth of substance that makes us wonderfully exist with free will to change form. And so therefore they do not represent us. They are predatory in their constructs. And I see them clearly and I'm pissed off, Hannah.
I'm glad we need more of pissed off people like you. George, what really amazes me is when you were so articulate and you speak so well, and I'm so I just want to learn so much from you, because these institutions that are giving us this silly diplomas and titles, I mean, they are in their old age, and they are going to disappear very quickly because of the new age, the real new age, not the new agey programmed, but the real
not
new age.
The co-opted one.
No, not the co-opt, but the ones that are understanding who we really are and the potential of the human potential that has been muffled and harassed for centuries. So that is coming out. And so it's wonderful that you speak like that, because it's important that people understand that it takes more than just, being awake. Now there's this whole thing, I'm awake. Are you really? It's like just saying so doesn't do the job. Are you actually working in yourself and the programs and the subconscious things that have been hammered into your head since you were a very little person, like an innocent child, and things that came already from your parents that, in our generation, a lot of people on the planet, they had parents that came from war, from humongous drama and trauma. So they are carrying the stuff and they don't have an idea. That's why I was thinking, when you wrote that paper and talk about me first, is because there's two things. Me first, of course, because I can only give you a hand if I am whole, or at least trying to be, but also because there's the other way where you are a person that you can only be helping, and even helping yourself, if you are doing the work, if you are walking the talk, which is, do you trust yourself? Do you know who you are? Do you know where you want to go? Do you know what your talents are? And so you got to question yourself first instead of questioning the environment. So tell me a little bit more. And I'm going to look here. There was a paper that you wrote called Our Divine Design. So you want to express with that? Because it's so, you are so,
Yeah,
just share with us what,
sure,
who are
sure.
we? What are we doing here? What is our purpose? You know, there is a purpose. A person without a purpose is practically a dead person, really, just walking around.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like
that's what,
zombie. There was
exactly.
another one I called, what is it? I called it zombie something leadership.
Oh, let me look.
I enjoyed writing that one.
That was oh yeah, that was a lot of fun. I shared that zombie identity leadership, and
Yeah,
you have
zombie identity leadership.
part one and part two. So
Yeah.
let's talk about our divine makeup. What are we made of, and why we are so amazing and potent and fabulous, and the reason really that the predatorial minds that wants to control, why they are so adamant in muffling this potential.
Well, let's start with what moves us deeply.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we get mesmerized by nature when it's flowing? Why do we get seduced by the naked flame of a candle or a
Fire.
bonfire? Yeah.
Fabulous.
Why? You know, the book that I had written, which was a rewrite of Cinderella that you know about, right?
Yes.
Cinderella's Secrets, the untold story, Ella. I was in the shower, and you know, when you're in the shower, a lot of people will know this, because the water is so calming and warm and flowing, you just relax. You're cleaning yourself, but you just relax, and it alters your state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then straight away, you start to flow with what's important to you. Like for me, it was, the book is finished, it's about to go to print. It's literally at the printers.
Wow.
And then something drew me to my favorite part of the book, which is that turning point for Ella, which was they left to the ball and she's looking at the fire and she falls into a trance. And in that trance, she realizes things start to come to her around why she's stuck. She never looked at how she's been. She was too busy trying to react to the world outside of her. And I thought to myself, why? Why is it that a fire would seduce her into a trance, just like us, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? What is going on? Because you see, for our divine design, everything's in the detail. Everything is interconnected and it's beautiful, like a woven fabric. When you interconnect fabric, what makes it so strong?
Mm.
Suddenly you can carry big weight with the flimsiest of fibers just because they're interwoven, right?
Mm-hmm.
The synergistic power of individuality coming together for unity, that's power.
Very
right?
much.
So then I'm in the shower, I see, I get it. Because I could see wood is becoming fire, sound, and light. And I go, she's witnessing transformation of form. She's witnessing mass of wood become mass, a new form, fire of passion, light of truth.
Right.
And what does it do for her? It's her memory of who she is.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's meant to transform, just like what her love for nature.
Mm-hmm.
Through the book, you see her love for nature, her love for transformation, caterpillar to butterfly. So here she is now going down to the beautiful physics of fire, light and heat, right? And it ignites the memory of that's who she is. She is not who's stuck feeling victimized by a world that won't let her have what she yearns to have, love and freedom and abundance. She is, which can be anything.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't identifying with her true self. She was identifying with her traumatized, conditioned self as a static being, and she was operating in a mandate of ideas that apparently were absolute reality. And here she is, finally, she's seduced in the memory to go, that change from form to form. And it made her embrace her transformation. So who are we?
Beautiful, beautiful.
Who are we? We are that which are gifted with our own single point of real estate of being, so that we can honor our individuality, that then is gifted free will to choose what form to be, to collect the experiences of the forms around us like a texture dance. We interrelate. What form I am determines what dance I'm in. And if I don't like the dance, or the dance gets boring, I get to change me to dance differently,
Wow.
to have a different experience.
Totally.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. If you don't like the way life is dancing with you, change your moves.
Exactly.
And
Beautiful.
if your moves are habitual, which they are, so in other words, you're in the habit of dancing the same way, that's okay. Understand why you feel the compulsion to have to move that way. And then you'll unpack the details of what mass you have been formed into that forces you to dance that way.
Absolutely.
Then you can light the truth on it and change it.
Beautiful.
Then it'll be easy for you to go, I don't need to dance that way, because I don't need to be that which has to dance that way, because that's not even built on truth for me, of my worth, of my capability, of the world that I think I'm in. And so that's why judgment must shift to understanding and compassion. And that's why me first means, how about I give myself permission to change?
Exactly.
I gotta stop shaking the stick for the world outside of me to change. If I'm not enjoying my moment, that's my responsibility. I need to change me so that I can see the world needs to change. But my world, in my moment, I've taken responsibility to change.
Fantastic.
That's why me first.
Yes, it's so beautiful. And it really touched me when I read it, because I was thinking, it is so much easier to just blame outside and just say, it was my parents, it was my upbringing, it was my country, it was the war, it was this, it was that. Meanwhile, you're just making to be very honest in a sense, it's like you're just making excuses to delay your growth, to delay the experience that you can have as a human being, and going back into being human. And it ties with this divine thing that you're talking about, is that, that I'm very fascinated by the ancient wisdom of India and the Vedic understandings and philosophy. And it says exactly that. It's like, we are the soul, we call, the jiva, and then you are in different bodies, and you are eternal. So you are just experience different dances. So you come and you dance as a cat, as a horse, as a tree, so everything it's the living entity is having different dances in different times. And that's why we have all these memories as well, and this experience. And sometimes, in the subtle platform in your mind, you have memories that might not even be from now, and you are dealing with those things that are very dear to you, and you have attractions and repulsion sometimes to certain things that you experience in this life. And the dance that you're having and the free will is the gift, the divine gift, for you to choose how you're going to dance, what kind of dance you're going to have, and who you're going to dance with. which is fantastic.
And do you dance for first?
Exactly.
You're your first customer. You're your first recipient of your dance.
Absolutely.
And if you're not feeling the self-love, and if you're not feeling the joy of the way you're choosing to be, then you're not serving yourself yet. So what chance will it be of genuine value and sustainable relevant value for everything outside of you?
Absolutely. And then there is this separation. There is this gap between, okay, because we're beings, especially the human form, it's like it's so much action. It's like you need to express your love. It's a need. It's not just a want anymore. It's like, if there's anything that is good, the word need to use is it's your expression. It's like it's an innate natural thing, and as long as you are cutting that off or interrupting it or not doing it or not doing it fully, there's always that frustration or that there's so much more, and then the more you do, the more you have. So when you are disconnected, I have feeling and learned lately also with many experiences I had, is that when you're disconnected, you don't have the strength and to actually do the dance. You just like, who am I dance to? Why am I dancing? So bringing the principles and what you actually, your signature, your soul signature, in a sense, your divine signature, that you are unique and you have this certain experience, bringing that forward and deciding for yourself, actually, without the white noise of propaganda and controlling mechanisms that have been set up in society. The moment you have that, now you're talking about liberty. Now you're talking about being whole and being beautiful and being who you are. And it's fascinating how you are able to express that. And then that in that book, that is fascinating, and I'm going to put a cover of it or illustrate here, this rewriting of Cinderella. It's very important, and we are going to make it into a movie. So take note and stay tuned, and we will show how easy and beautifully written the process can be of just stop a moment, just take a moment to realize first who you truly are, then you do the dance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Do you know, depression is when we are tired of dancing the same dance,
the same tune,
songs,
with the wrong person.
Yeah. And depression is, we're pressed into life with the same dancing to the same tunes. And finally, our instinct says, no.
Can't do it.
I need a different dance. I need a meaningful one. I don't know how to get there, because thanks to society, we're not guided into initiations, rituals to do it.
Exactly.
But we're getting there. We are getting there. And the ancient wisdom has it. We just need to be humble enough, join the dots again. Because I think, okay, I want to share something with you that's actually very interesting.
Tell me.
I spoke to this beautiful Indigenous lady the other day, and she said to me, only in 1950, Aboriginals were still considered flora and fauna.
No way. I'm stupid. Well, anyway, let's not go into the whole thing, because
so Anna,
they were being harassed. Not only that, considered something, and then they were harassed constantly for.
So Anna, when the sterile, institutionalized, disconnected, stern upper lip, egomaniac English empire arrived to colonize, colonialize,
to invade, cuckoos.
you know what they noticed when they saw these Aboriginals?
Beauty. They didn't.
They saw them mimicking animals because that's the only way they can catch them for food. So they would become the kangaroo. They would become the kangaroo, and they would stay being the kangaroo until they were amongst the kangaroos, and then clunk, they could knock out the kangaroo. They feed their family, right?
Amazing, amazing.
These beautiful indigenous people knew how to emulate nature. They embodied whatever form allowed them to connect and be able to be sustained from that form, right?
Right.
So what did the sterile, stern upper lip English empire look? Oh, look, they're just like nature. They're just fauna and flora. That's how we'll treat them. They're not really human. So they made a judgment that a human is separate from nature, and that's not hard to believe. Look at how we've plundered the environment.
Sure.
Right now, these institutions, they're even treating people like they're separate. So even the liberal movement going extreme, that's meant to be about we're all interconnected as one, is demonizing and creating an us versus them against people who want to be heard, who want to debate, who want to discuss.
Yeah.
And
there's no talking, because when you are oppressing, there is no discussion. So
that's right.
Of course the discussion is being shut down, because if that's not, right. You have to actually have a discussion and do some thinking. You're not just imposing your ideas.
Do you know, I grew up with debates at school. I don't know whether you remember having debates where you have the first speaker, second speaker, third speaker on both sides. Mm-hmm. What I loved about it was they made you choose a side that you don't agree with.
Right.
And so it forced you to sit with that point of view, go deep, argue for it, and be agile when they're giving you the counter argument that ironically you've lived agreeing with, but now you've really got to do your best
to
counter argue.
Right.
Exactly. So the thing is, I know as an audience member and participant of these debates, something would happen to us whenever we were taken deep into the extremes of both sides. We saw the relevance of what needed to be factored, what needed to be considered and consolidated. So what would happen is that it would even you out, it would balance you, and it would make you better in the middle, because you understood both extremes. Both extremes on their own is nonsensical.
Exactly.
But consolidated, you're now grounded in balance. And balanced views, balanced perception is because you've got enough you're informed enough from the data. Mm-hmm. So what's happened now is they want to castrate one side and they want to shift one extreme into the middle as if it is what it is, the truth. That is not the pursuit of truth. That is tyranny, dictatorship, totalitarianism. Humility has been destroyed. Curiosity has been destroyed. These two things that I was saying earlier are fundamental to get into truth. They go, no, we have, and so people have to pretend they're perfect to decide who to be censored. So you've got two extreme sides. You've got the far right, mm-hmm. which says, fear nothing, God will take care of you. Then you've got the far left, which says, fear everything, but we will take care of you. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, but this far right is nonsense, because God gave you the means to take care of yourself.
Sure.
And this far left is nonsense, because I'm sorry, but I'm designed to be a part of how I live my life and what is important. So I am not being subservient to you as my demigod either. Mm-hmm. So, but then what's happened is the left somehow has managed through institutions to stop the voices of the right, mm-hmm. and move themselves in the middle as if
And
they are the authority on truth.
exactly, monopolized truth.
So they're pretending they're perfect. They're pretending that they can identify misinformation as it's happening,
Right.
disinformation as it's happening. That is nonsense. Whenever someone gives you any information, you may have an initial skepticism, which is good,
Normal.
but then there's due process to collect more data, humility,
Yes.
curiosity. Now, you may be right a lot of times, but you must never lose the due process. Otherwise, when life changes and smoke and mirrors present, you will be blindsided very easy with your complacency and your arrogance.
Right.
So therefore, we as a society must protect the fabric of hearing out voices and continuing to let debate sort out the good ideas from the bad, not having some pseudo-perfect authority decide for us all what truth is at all times, because not one empire in our history did not collapse with that nonsense when they tried to claim that authority.
It's collapsing now, but they have done a very good job into, like you said, castrate creativity and free will. Yes. And you mentioned something else, and the discussion.
The debate.
Actually, the debate, because if you don't have that, then the truth cannot be discovered, because it's just one side.
Every breakthrough that has ever happened is because someone realized that the lens, there was a filter in their lens of perception that was wrong, and it was stopping them from seeing the elegant, obvious solution. And only when they were in that trance to drop that lens long enough to have that epiphany of having clarity to see what was always there. That's how our innovations, that's how we got here. And now we're going to pretend that process is not relevant, and we're going to tear it apart and gift at the few people who'll decide what life is. I'm sorry, but they've lost the dressing room when they're carrying on like pork chops. Like
that's true. That's true. It's totally, it's a funny thing, because, sometimes when you, there's this psychosis, and you talk about, I talk about recognizing, a very small percentage of humans on the planet who has a psychosis of sociopath or psychopaths. And one of the traces is exactly this, is like, I am authority and I'm the gatekeeper of everything, and I will hunt you down if you try to figure me out. And the funny part is, this is such a small percentage. And because that small percentage has risen again, as any empire or tyranny has risen again to a place where they have control over society, most of utilities, and all this internet thing and everything, that it's backfiring in a sense, because they're never going to get away with it. They cause a lot of damage, and the history repeats itself, where there's a lot of damage, and it's being done now. And then we have to be very level-headed, in a sense, to not be emotionally totally dismantled, because it's family members, it's friend of ours who are going down.
Oh yeah.
So how do you, another thing I wanted to address with you, go to that a little bit, how to cope with this. There's so much utilizing the discernment ability of our human divine potential and our intellect and our understanding the bigger picture, and then how to emotionally cope with the understanding when it happens that you figure out that we're being conned, how to deal with emotions that are so raw, of knowing that beautiful people are gonna be having a difficult life from now on.
Well, there's a lot of psychological damage that always comes when you inflict persistent fear on people and control them and wire their brain into blind obedience for periods of time, the process that did the damage is the same process that will undo the damage. And I think the top-down damage will be reversed through the bottom-up healing. So in other words, as we come together and we love each other, we soften. It primes the openness to truth, to reclaim truth. And one of the initial stuff that will come out always is shame for judging your loved ones and thinking and hating them, thinking that they're endangering your life, right? So the shame will come out, the regret, the guilt. But then when you notice that they're not judging you and that they totally get how difficult it is to be human and that we're at war with information and that our poor brains were just, there was an onslaught.
Overwhelmed. Yeah, overwhelmed. Yeah.
That will be relieved. That will be grateful. That will feel loved. And then they will want to understand what some of us understood while it was happening. And then I think that will create a beautiful tipping point for humanity. And sometimes I think that what's happening now somehow had to happen for us to have to dig deep and finally come together with more intense purpose to know ourselves and to know how to love each other and know how to co-create a beautiful existence. I feel like this had to happen because otherwise there's no reason to jolt out of it when you're in that slumber of comfort that, yes, the heart feels unfulfilled, but there's no real reason to shake out of and challenge the world. So you stay in that boring lane, Right. And if you think about depression was rising, anxiety that your future isn't bright because you don't see it being exciting. Anxiety and depression were raising.
True.
Antidepressants were rising.
Yes.
Society really wasn't getting healthier on mass.
It was sick. It was made sick already for a long time. It was a long process, and then I think that the whole 2 years that we have in the past was really like the last straw of complete takeover of everybody's brain, which is backfiring actually. Thank God.
Yeah, and look, when you look at nature, yes, we are that which can change form to form, and our free will, our ability to contemplate an idea. We don't want to relate to an idea of who we are or how we want to relate to life, so we change it, That's great, but we are in a biological body, and in that biological body is a primal impulse to first survive, because that's how we are having to navigate here. We have to be cautious of cliffs and sociopaths.
Yes, absolutely.
And psychopaths. Now, you look at nature, you've got giraffes, you've got gentle lambs, you've got mice, timid mice.
Hyenas.
You beat me to it. You've got hyenas and weasels, right?
You got sharks. You got nice little fish with the little clown fishes.
So when you pay attention to all the archetypes of traits through the full spectrum of the animal kingdom, you come to see it in humanity. So we have to stop being too naive and only be a giraffe or only be a timid mouse. We have to consolidate and see it all as forms of expression.
Right.
And then start to evolve through our spirit, the form we want to be, and allow our vision to understand. Some people want to stay addicted to the hyena archetype, the weasel archetype, right?
Right. And it's interesting.
The vulture archetype.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because when I was doing acting in Paris, There's some methods, you go through some things just to learn and to be free to express yourself, because you're using your emotions to represent, a great writer or something, and you are putting yourself out there. So one of the things were to actually play like an animal. And it was very interesting because you could see the archetypes and you could pick one. It's like, and I still today, when I watch a movie, sometimes I can see the method. They're like, they're behaving like a dog, or like if they're really servant kind of type, or they're very aggressive. It's more like the lion, or, not the lion, but the lioness. And so it's a very interesting thing, because we are going through life and having to connect with all these different things and all these different ways to express ourselves, which is at the same time scary, but it's also magical, because when you are not naive and you are dealing with these characters or these archetypes or tendencies, or expression of characters, then you can actually say no. And it's something I was talking about very much, that it becomes, they're so politically incorrect to say no, or, and to be condemned, because another thing that is happening a lot now is condemnation, a lot of aggression, and you're condemned. It's like you just don't know, you just don't understand. And people are just like so stressed that they have to condemn each other. And that is a very precarious place to be, when you are not gathering the information, like you said. And then before you gather the information and you don't go to both extremes, you're right in the middle with the truth, in a sense, or the best thing you can make out of. Then if you're condemning anybody who is trying to do that, you have a real disconnect there. And can you hear me properly? Because
I can hear you. I can hear you clearly.
So that's the connection that I'm trying to make, is where you can actually recognize what actually you're in front of. When you
spot on.
You're right, because if you're in front of a lion,
know what you're dealing with.
Exactly. Know what you got to know, because if you're watching a giraffe, you're not going to be eaten. But if you were in front of a bear or a hungry lion, you're going to act differently. So,
and then, you know what I also noticed from what's going on in the last 2 years is that most people are the most trusting, loving, gentle,
beautiful,
caring people you could ever ask for. They'll do anything for you.
Absolutely.
And so what's happened is that we attempted to judge them for being naive and gullible. My gosh, they need love and they need guidance. They don't need judgment.
Absolutely.
They're getting it enough from the governments.
Absolutely.
We shouldn't be ganging up on the other side on them either.
No.
They're just beautiful souls, right? And
True.
Me as a work in progress have struggled with that too, because it's kind of like you love this beautiful fellow human being, and they're being told to walk off the cliff, and you go, don't walk off the cliff, and then the parts of you that gets angry because
why would you do that?
Someone you love is being hurt by a predator who's saying, come this way,
Exactly.
And then you go, I'm trying to save you. And they're going, oh, no.
Oh, I'm okay.
Trust him, not you this time. You're not trusting me. So you end up taking it personally. And you know what? We need to also give ourselves some slack, because it's not a fun experience as a human.
No, it's not. Right? It's not.
And
it comes to what I was asking is like, how do we deal with those emotions that are very deep? Because when you have somebody you love that is actually, as we were saying, you're going to get hurt, they're walking off the cliff, how to deal with that if they choose to do that. And that comes to, again, to the free will. We were in respecting, their own choice, which is hard.
Yeah, there's a few things I think is going on there. I think the first thing is cut yourself some slack and cut them some slack. But, look, it's easier said than done, but perspective is a big lever, right? They're divine, they're eternal. So are you. Okay, so they fall off a cliff this lifetime. Did you try to help them with love? Did you show some passion to share with them that
Yes.
they're walking off a cliff? Yes. Did they go, oh, I think I'm going to choose fear over our love this time?
It's their choice.
Okay. Okay. Are you going to grieve? Yes.
Mhm.
Is it okay to grieve? Yes. Will you miss them? Yes. So in other words, the human experience is the human experience, okay?
Sure.
But guess what? It's just a chapter of an endless book.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
therefore, embody the chapter, appreciate that you can't have unity without segregation to give it meaning,
Right.
passion without depression. Like you just can't. I'm sorry. This
Duality.
is a beautiful playground of experiential contrasts, and
Absolutely.
we're in for the ride,
Yes. The duality that is what can help your free will be so clear that you can actually choose. Because if you don't have the duality, then you can't choose.
That's right.
And
but you know what I think
forgiving
would
in a
happen?
sense, right? In a sense, like not forgiving from a top-down thing, but just even like
allowing
and we understand that is their journey, and they chose that. And as long as there's love and compassion and understanding, and that you do your best, we are a work in progress, like you said. It's not that now I'm on the top of the hill telling you, being the demigod and telling you now you did it wrong and now you're going to be punished somehow or else.
That's right. But then when you calm down, when you are allowing, when they feel your love, your intuition will guide you with just what to say, how to say it calmly and lovingly, without no pressure or judgment for them feeling controlled by you.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to confuse them because on one side, someone's dictating and being forceful. On this side, they're getting love and allowance. Their heart will eventually want them to swing your way.
Absolutely.
And for the few that don't, okay, sad.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot more will, because the heart, the wisdom of the heart, the power, the instinct to know we're all interconnected is much greater than the beating of a stick of saying, I am the one you must follow. I am your greater good. So we need to believe in that. We need to come home to that. And therefore, that's why Me First was written, because it's kind of like, what is the pathway out of this? Through me. I must embody what I want to be for the people I'm worried about. And I got to stop being what feeds the beast.
Absolutely.
And so talking about beasts, right? Do psychopaths exist? I was going to write this. This was going to be one of those essays, right? Do psychopaths exist? Yes. What do they do? They're deceptive. They have no care for your life. So you dying is of no consequence to them. They don't feel nothing. Right. And so therefore they're ambitious for their own security and control, because that, as far as they're concerned, they live in a world that's against them, and they need to outsmart and cut their own path and amass as much power to deal with the uselessness and the horrible people that exist in the world. Right? That's a psychopath. Okay. Now, if you give a psychopath more money, does it stop them being a psychopath?
Not at all.
If you put a psychopath amongst naive, loving, caring people in a workplace, are they going to be strategic and cunning and divide and conquer and end up in control?
Absolutely.
Yes. So generally we know that sociopaths go into higher positions in the corporate field.
Totally.
We know that. This is fact. Studies are on this. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if psychopaths exist and sociopaths exist, is there any field of study, any field of occupation where they are immune from existing?
Not at all.
No.
Oh.
So where are the psychopaths in the medical industry? Where are the psychopaths in politics? Where are they?
They're all at the top.
Plain sight, but what would a psychopath do with a lot of power and money? They would control the way you see them.
Yes, absolutely. And the deceit is there, where we actually, even in the mafia, because we were talking the other day about The Godfather, the movie, and Matt said about there was a term, the buffer.
Yeah.
They always have the buffer, and the buffer is the person that is actually hired to take the blame, which nowadays is the politician.
Scapegoat.
Exactly. And they use that term. They have a lot of buffers, even in the movie, where, you couldn't get Corleone because he never gave the order. He never literally gave the order. He had two.
And you know what else? That person who was the buffer knew that when they went to jail, their family were taken care of. And when they came out, they would have the best life, and they've served their honorable role. So it's a system that protects
itself. So that's why it's utilized in that way. And that's so important that most people understand that. But as you said, most people are so gullible and so naive, and it's hard for them to get their head around that actually the government or these people that they apparently chose to be in a position of power would do them wrong. So they're just, there is the dissonance where they say it can't be true, it can't be true. They don't want to believe. And that's when I think forgiveness and also compassion is used, where if they cannot cope with the dissonance and how difficult it is to swallow that pill, then just say, okay, it's not. What I did actually, it's funny because for some time I was so passionate about certain people very close to me that it's almost like I was beating a dead horse. It's like, come on again. And I send another information and really good stuff. And they just don't want to know. They just chose not to know. And I'm thinking, they're intelligent. They have a perfect brain. They had the same education. They had, opportunity. They're wealthy or not, like people that are doing great. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with them? And I realized after a year and a half that nothing is really wrong with them. It is that they are having a hard time coping with the amount of information, and the cunning is so long.
The confrontational information.
Yeah.
Too. Very confrontational information.
Yes. And that they're being conned for so long that it's hard for them to step back and said, really? Is this even possible? Because the shame, again, is what comes first, where they are ashamed of their own selves for being so naive as well.
Yeah.
To deal with that.
It's denial is a very difficult thing. I wrote an article once, maybe an essay.
Yes.
On denial, and it was the least read article I have ever written. Why? Because I'm writing about something that everybody is in denial of it being relevant to
the
them.
Denial of the denial.
So Anna, you know what I did? I rewrote it. I rewrote it with the title, "Are you suffering from people you love being in denial?"
Oh, and then you got something.
It shot up. It shot up after that.
Great.
As long as it wasn't about your denial, you're willing to acknowledge it in others.
Yeah, you take the time. It's funny how the mind works, and you study so much about the brain and how the brain can be tweaked into working for you instead of against you. And I think that is fascinating. And then how you will pick information that will reinforce your subconscious belief that is not threatening. to your
That's
subconscious
right.
belief.
That's right.
So,
You know,
so
our brain
share.
wants certainty.
Yeah.
Our brain is desperate for certainty because that's its first priority. If it can make certain what is going on around you, then it knows how to position itself for survival protection, right? So that's autopilot, right?
Mm.
So what happens is that 99% of the time, the brain is forcing certainty into things that are not what it wants to believe they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're being robbed of being informed. So it takes discipline and courage to want to be still with what's going on and resist the urges to jump to conclusions. It takes incredible discipline. And it's only when you fall in love with the bigger picture and how things must always interconnect and integrate. It's only when that's your new purpose. In other words, whatever you have to say may be true, may not be true. I need to hear it all out so I know how it interconnects with everything else I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing that generally anymore. The moment someone starts to talk, oh, I know where that fits, shut it down. And so, you know, I feel like I'm sounding like an old record player when I say we're back to humility and curiosity.
No,
but gee, you know,
necessary.
Yeah. So it is imperative to just love absorbing your environment fully, because you will be taken on new adventures, new discoveries. You will come to life because you'll see things you've never seen before, and it will make you feel like the way you were being doesn't make sense, and it will shift you immediately, and suddenly you're getting traction, you're becoming more effective, you're creating breakthroughs, or you only have to do one thing differently, which is just be absorbing of your environment and details. And you know, and what should help is, remember that what I wrote about being wrong.
Right. That is an opportunity to grow.
Yeah. So if you are willing to be wrong, if you see the value in being wrong, because if I'm wrong, it means I will change the deception that made me wrong to a truth, and I have immediate uplift. So I should be hoping I am wrong more than right, because that's where my growth comes from. If you're right about everything that you think you're right about, then nothing's going to change around you, because you're fixed in the one perception.
Yes.
And if you're going to respect the laws of physics, if every action has an opposite equal reaction, if your existing perception is what the truth is, then you've pretty much decided that your change is not relevant. And that is the biggest con job of all.
Right.
To con yourself out of the gift of your power through your adaptive nature is a Shakespearean tragedy.
Absolutely.
And so therefore, we must re-embrace this beautiful opportunity to go, where am I wrong? Where am I wrong? Tell me more. Tell me more, because I'm not seeing it yet, because I'm seeing that what you're telling me can be explained this way, this way. So keep telling me more. How do you explain this? How do you explain that? Well, what about this? What about that? If you live there in a discovery of, yeah, but what about? In other words, I'm wired to think I'm right, but let me understand you so fully that you may gift me a special insight that I was missing.
Wow.
And I'm going to be
that
grateful.
Is magic. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is magic.
But between us, if you feel my sincerity to understand you and my willingness to keep understanding you to a depth where I care about you, your world, how you see the world, and I'm giving you all these relevant questions of the what ifs because of my world, you know what's going to happen to you, right?
Connection.
Connection, but also gratitude,
Yeah.
And then suddenly you feel one with me. And now if you discover that you assumed something that was not true, and when I asked you about the what if, but how do you explain this? And you couldn't. And then we started to discuss why it's not explainable. And then I started to add more to it. Then you have to shift. So one of us
Synergy.
is going to have a shift. Usually both of us will have a shift because I
Absolutely.
get to love your perspective and us, we consolidate into a middle. And so what have we got to lose by loving if we're wrong? We've got
Exactly.
so much to gain. If you love being wrong, it's not about being gullible. It's not about, I'm just going to assume I'm wrong. No, that's silly. It's
But
not
that's false
about being,
humility. That's what we call
yes, it's
false
not
humility.
about being
Like,
a
oh, I'm wrong,
fanatic.
but
It's not about being a fanatic. It's saying, you know what, if I'm wrong, I want to be the first to know about it.
exactly.
So,
Tell me,
so how about
yeah.
I go on a journey with you and believe that truth is like cream. It will float to the surface with two humble people
And
deep diving into each other's perspective. That's what we're missing in this world. You can't maintain a great divide. You can't have discrimination, segregation. You can't maintain that when people deep dive into each other's points of view.
Yes,
But our identity is attached to being right because we think that protects us. That's the only way we are going to be of value for people not to reject us and abandon us. So it ends up being we serve that rather than serve honoring each other, our perceptions, what formed them, how we're experiencing life. That's what's happening.
It's
beautiful. We got it the
beautiful.
wrong way around.
Yeah, but in a sense, I love what you're saying, but in a sense, it's the pre-programming. It's like, the brain being the body being like a computer. It's like before we got to this whatever name, this programming, there was another program. So it's like this righteousness, fanatical righteousness, has been pre-programmed in most people through academia and through many things. Again, it goes.
We're talking thousands of years.
But lately, I'm just keeping recent history because it was already a problem when the Second World War was going on. That's why it worked. And then many dictators that, cause havoc. But it's again the same thing as the pre-programming that somehow these people are the right people and they become dysfunctional, and then they are so right that, they get farther down the road. Or even society in itself, that it will muffle this real connection and this deep diving into discovering more because they already think they're right. And it's the worst idea is to actually say, I remember when I was in London and I was studying a lot with the Vedic people, they say that the worst 3 words on the planet in English is, I already know. And it's like the worst enemy. I already know. It's like it's the worst enemy because
it should be replaced with tell me more.
Tell me more. Yeah, tell me more is way better because it shuts everything. I already know. It's like there is no place for any more knowledge, and knowledge is infinite, and we are just scratching the surface, So when people, are in that department where they're like, I already know, it's very deficient state of mind.
It's like we need a currency shift. I already know makes me think that my value to you is what I know.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't. My value to you is how I make you feel.
Yeah, it's in the heart.
If I make you feel loved, understood, appreciated, honored, that's my value to you. Not preaching to you the knowledge I've been ordained with knowing.
I know, it's crazy. Yes.
So we've got to shift the currency.
Absolutely.
We've got to trade on how we make each other feel.
Absolutely.
And the only way to make someone feel amazing is by giving a shit about the world they see and living, and honoring that long enough for them to go, I
Wow.
just instinctively want to reciprocate. It's what happens to us. The
Absolutely.
moment someone gives us that depth of love, we just want to reciprocate. We can't help it. The heart takes over. The
It's
spirit takes over.
absolutely. And that's where the connection, and we talked about, flow, and we could go on forever, but that's where the connection and the liberty of expressing yourself comes about. And then so many beautiful things can be created because we are, creatures of action. And when we get out of the survival mode, now we are in the creation mode. And so it's paramount that the survival be just like a back of the, only if you are really under a threat that kicks in, but not a constant, just like survival. So you don't even have time to think. Most people, they're in such a stress situation, they don't have time to think, or that's why thinking are being done for them. That's the way about how do masses of people have governments thinking for them and deciding for them, is because they have no longer the energy to think for themselves. And that's the mechanism.
Yeah.
So going back to humility, like you said, and giving a fig about how you feel, and then having real connections and doing the best we can to uplift and bring humanity back, because the program is to just robotize. I use this word, robotize humanity. Even
Anna, you know what you just said about people don't have energy because every day they're being there's fear mongering and fear, the invisible biological terrorists that are in your Trojan bodies. We don't know whether you're about to kill grandma. Like everyone now is just a ticking bomb to kill people you love.
Exactly.
So that will wear you down. That level of responsibility that is so distorted from reality is going to take its toll on you, because you're a caring soul, because you don't want to hurt anybody, and you're told that now
you were dangerous. You were about to kill people by walking around.
You're a biological Trojan body harboring nano terrorists, right?
Oh.
So what I love about what we're discussing is that this bottom-up movement is that through the act of love, we'll re-energize each other.
And it's quick.
That energy will come back fast the moment you go deep into and love and understand each other without making right and wrong the stick of value. It isn't.
Yes.
And it will serve, it will still play its role. But it can't be first. You must connect through the process of gifting, understanding, and then right and wrong will play a beautiful part in serving that, rather than it be the nonsense master.
Right. So the condemnation is over, and we declare that right now.
Yeah.
And just love and connection, and we're going to go for that. And I'm so grateful. We could keep going on forever, but I think we can wrap it up here.
We've got to walk some of this talk.
Yes, now we have to put it in action, and we can keep talking and just not, but we are doing that, and we are planning to do beautiful things together, and we're going to talk a lot more. And I'm so glad you shared this moment with me, and that
Thank you. I really enjoyed our talk. It's been absolutely wonderful for me too.
So thank you, and I will speak with you soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Bye for now.